Hello there, you're watching our television. This is State of Business. I'm Pramutha Katagampala. Let's have a look at the headlines. Increased fuel quota will continue for another 7 days. Ministry announces. Manufacturing PMI turned positive after 9 consecutive survey rounds, CBSE data shows. Welcome back. Let's have a detailed look at the stories. Now, India, Japan and France announced the launch of a common platform for Sri Lanka debt restructuring program. The representatives of the 3 creditor countries made the announcement holding a press conference on the margins of the spring meetings of the annual IMF and World Bank. The official statement said the purpose of the event was to demonstrate the multilateral cooperation regarding the debt restructuring process among the creditors together with Sri Lanka. Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman expressed India's commitment to supporting Sri Lanka in dealing with its current economic crisis. She emphasized the collaboration among creditors was important to ensure transparency and equality in the debt restructuring discussions. Japanese Finance Minister Shunichi Suzuki said the group being able to launch this negotiation process gathering such a broad-based group of creditors is a historical outcome. He added that the committee is open to all creditors, voicing hope that China, Sri Lanka's biggest creditor, will join the initiative launched by Japan, who is the chair of this year's G7 summit. French Director General of the Treasury Emmanuel Moulin also joined Sitharaman and Suzuki at the press conference. Joining the press conference virtually, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said he would present in Parliament the agreement with the IMF for the $2.9 billion bailout, gain approval and bring in legislation to ensure its implementation. President Wickremesinghe further said Sri Lanka remains committed to continuing to engage with all creditor nations and other stakeholders in a transparent manner based on the principles of comparable treatment. Meanwhile, State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinghe said that IMF and World Bank spring meeting created a platform to engage and explore opportunities to benefit Sri Lanka. The State Minister took to Twitter yesterday after concluding the spring meetings in Washington, D.C. State Minister Shehan Semasinghe, who led a delegation to the 2023 spring meetings of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank Group in Washington last week, said it was a very significant week for Sri Lanka's efforts to emerge from the economic crisis. While participating for the spring meetings, State Minister Shehan Semasinghe has had the opportunity to hold a number of bilateral meetings with officials representing various financial institutions as well as creditor countries. The State Minister took to Twitter to express how crucial the spring meetings were to engage with global leaders to discuss Sri Lanka's priorities and explore opportunities for collaboration to further the progress towards economic recovery and sustainability. Semasinghe in a tweet said that JICA's commitment to support Sri Lanka's economic recovery was reiterated by JICA's Senior Vice President for South Asia, Imoto Sachiko. Explaining the outcomes of his recent meetings in addition to JICA, Semasinghe said he met the president of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, Jin Liquin, and discussed how AIIB and Sri Lanka could work together closely in financing sustainable infrastructure development. State Minister Semasinghe had also met the Paris Club Secretariat co-chair William Roos and discussed the progress made thus far on the debt restructuring process and the role played by the Paris Club in this process. Semasinghe said he also had a very constructive meeting with Kentaro Ogata, Deputy Vice Minister for International Affairs, Japan, where he recalled the long history of friendship between Sri Lanka and Japan. The Deputy Vice Minister for International Affairs of Japan had reaffirmed Japan's priority to assist Sri Lanka in the debt negotiation process. Now, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says that he expects China to support Sri Lanka's effort to restructure its debt as per the IMF program. Governor Nandalal said this during a broadcast done by the Bloomberg television in Washington while attending the IMF and World Bank spring meetings, which was concluded day before yesterday. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal told Bloomberg that China will support Sri Lanka in the process of debt restructuring and help begin repaying its obligations. Dr. Nandalal told Bloomberg that it's in the best interest of both China and Sri Lanka to complete the said process so Sri Lanka can return to paying the distressed obligation as soon as possible. He said that as China have expressed openly its willingness to support Sri Lanka, it will certainly happen. When asked about the response from the bondholders with regard for the proposed voluntary debt restructuring, he said that an announcement has been made in a transparent manner for local optimization, including a treatment of central bank holding treasury bills and voluntary treatment for treasury bonds. He also said that the central bank has already made commitments with the IMF in terms of primary surplus in the fiscal deficit, growth targets and inflation. The governor said the domestic debt optimization strategy will be announced by the end of this month. He expressed that Sri Lanka has already concluded the most painful reforms while sympathizing with the affected parties. He further said, as a result of very tight monetary policy, the process of tackling the current inflation digits has already begun. Stay tuned for more stories after this short commercial break.
IWS Aviation.
Welcome back, you're watching State of Business. Now, the Power and Energy Ministry announces that the already increased fuel quota that was provided for the New Year season will not be changed and will be continued for another week. Power and Energy State Minister D.V. Chanaka said the increased quota would be renewed as of today and the general public would be able to consume the increased quota for another 7 days or a fresh decision on the fuel quota was made. The Power and Energy State Minister said that a decision will be taken in the future whether to continue with the increased fuel quota after analysing the figures, including consumption on the days when the fuel quota was increased. However, a meeting will be held today to analyse the fuel consumption after increasing the quota, the State Minister said. The fuel quota for passenger three-wheelers special category was increased from 10 to 15 litres on the 8th of this month. Three-wheelers in general category was increased to 8 litres from 5 litres and the motor bicycles from 4 litres to 7 litres. While the buses are provided 60 litres, cars and vans were also increased with 10 litres, making it 30 litres per week. Government introduced the quota system in August last year to limit the fuel consumption as it ran out of petrol and diesel due to foreign currency shortage. The government declaration of sovereign debt default also deprived the state-run fuel retailer Sipetco of receiving fuel on credit as many foreign banks refused to open corresponding letter of credit. However, the government had been expecting the tight situation to ease after the International Monetary Fund approved a $3 billion loan last month. Now, both the manufacturing and services activities of the country have returned to a positive note during March 2023. The data showed in the central bank report, which was released yesterday. Central bank data shows manufacturing PMI turned positive in March 2023 after 9 consecutive survey rounds, recording an index value of 51.4. However, it said employment, stock of purchases and suppliers' delivery time sub-indices remained below the neutral threshold. During the survey, many respondents have mentioned that they experienced a relatively higher demand compared to previous month to cater for the festive season, although employment continues to decline mostly due to non-replacement of retirements and resignations. Data shows that stock of purchases declined in March since some firms used their stocks of raw materials, delaying new purchases with the anticipation of a decline in raw material prices in the period ahead. CBSL expects manufacturing activities to improve in the next 3 months. Services sector PMI also returned to the growth territory, recording an index value of 55.1 last month, indicating an expansion across the services sector. According to the data, business activities in the services sector rebounded last month after observing a decline in February. Accordingly, financial services subsector continued to improve with increases in deposits, while other personal activities subsector also exhibited a significant improvement. However, business activities related to wholesale and retail trade subsector continued to deteriorate despite some improvements seen ahead of the festive season. Meanwhile, both employment and backlogs of work both declined at a slower pace according to the data released by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, an Auradu festival with the intention of providing foreigners an insight into Sri Lankan culture and traditions relating to the Sinhala Tamil New Year was held at Unavattana Beach recently. The event was sponsored by the Tourism Ministry and the Tourism Promotion Authority. The New Year in Paradise 2023 New Year Festival, which provides foreign tourists visiting the country with experiences of local cultural traditions related to the New Year, was held under the guidance of Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment Manusha Nanayakkara. The New Year Festival was embellished with many cultural elements related to the New Year, and the New Year traditional foods table reserved for foreign tourists was a major attraction. A village kitchen with local sweets was also added to the New Year festival to give tourists a live experience of preparing local food. Additionally, many traditional New Year competitions were organized for the foreigners, like hitting a hanging pot while blindfolded, placing the eye on the elephant, climbing the greasy pole, and cultural performances with local dances and drumming were also on showcase. Furthermore, a sandcastle making competition was also organized on the beach for small children visiting Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka has welcomed over 56,000 tourists during the first 16 days of the month, propelling the impetus to reach the monthly target of 86,000 arrivals. The country received 56,402 tourists during the first 16 days of the month, comprising 26,912 during the first week, 24,362 in the second week, and 5,128 in the balanced 2 days. The majority coming from India, followed by Russia, the UK, Germany, and Australia. The cumulative arrivals for the year is estimated around 400,000. Analysts say that despite the peak season coming to an end, if arrivals trend continues to maintain the upward momentum, the monthly figure will grow, surpassing 100,000 arrivals. Stay tuned for the stock update.
විශිෂ්ටතම ටෙලිනාට්‍ය නිලියන් ලෙස සම සම්මානයෙන් පිදුම් ලබන්නේ
මම මේ සම්මානය මගේ හදවතට පොඩ්ඩක් ලං කරගන්න.
Welcome back, you're watching State of Business, and now the stock update. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on mixed notes today. The All-Share Price Index dropped 60.37 points to close at 9,345.53, and the S&P SL 20 gained 38.94 points to close at 2,728.95. The turnover was 1.1 billion rupees, and over 58 million shares were traded. Coming up next are Forex rates. Well, that's a wrap from today's edition of State of Business. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
State of Business was sponsored by
IWS Aviation.